Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo, back out of mini hibernation. I will tell you, we have tried to record an episode here, I think, over the last 3 to 4 weeks, and so much has happened. I think by the time that the episode would be posted, it would have been outdated the next day because of how much literally has transpired over the last 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know if we'll try and recap all of it. I think we'll do our best on that front. But, Kolpack, you've been doing this a long time, and I know we've used unprecedented, uncharted, all those words over the last 5 months. But the last 3 weeks really has seemed like this is, I think, I'm not trying to put more work for you. I think it's another book in the making, my man, of what we've seen over the last 3 to 4 weeks, specifically with the Bison football program.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know where to start either or where this is going to end up. And I don't have the words. I don't think anybody does. You can use unprecedented and all those things. But it literally, from day to day to day, if you're the head coach, if you're the athletic director of these Division I schools across the country, I'm not sure how you function from a day-to-day basis. That, just imagine this. So you go to bed and you're thinking the season's over. You're the head coach, and you're thinking about recruiting, and you're thinking about OTAs and strength training and what kind of schedule you're going to have until December. Take a break, come back, do some sort of OTA, and then start ramping up practice again, hopefully. And all of a sudden, a week later, here you're back at it, ramping up practice within a week from today.
Yeah. And going to be playing a game in about 4 or 5 weeks' time.
And just one game.
Yeah, which is bizarre in its own right.
I think it's good they're playing. I think to go the whole fall without anything for anybody to look forward to, it would be a mistake. Mm-hmm. I think the opportunity was there. We reported that some schools were interested. Now, it's one thing to say you're interested and you do it. It's another thing to hook it up because there are ramifications down the line, as we see with NDSU in future schedules.
Right.
Just because Jacksonville State says they want a home and home doesn't mean that NDSU has the room on the back end to say, we'll go to Jacksonville, Alabama and play a game.
Right.
You can only go to so many FCS road games if you want to play 6 home games every year. So to say that, yes, we'll play, that's part of the battle. It's like, who was it taking the reservation? Jerry taking the reservation? You know how to take the reservation.
Car? Yes, you just know how to hold it.
You know how to hold the reservation. So when you make a reservation for a game, there's more to it than just to call up and say we want to play.
You mentioned there's a lot to get into. I want to go first. You want to start on the scheduling front. I think there is a lot of smoke to the theory that you and I have both posited that once NDSU announced on August 14th that they weren't going to play anymore, I think there were some schools that came out of the woodwork. Maybe it's the two that we both reported on and said, yeah, we wanted to play them after the fact that the Bison decided they didn't want to play. I think there's something to that. Do you agree with me on that?
It could be. I mean, there's nothing's off the table. Nothing's off the table right now. I don't know if it's possible that, say, sites at Jacksonville State would say, Greg Sites would say, after seeing NDSU
make its announcement
that no more season, they'd also need to come out and be more willing to say, yes, we were willing to play home and home. That seems a little shallow to me, but I don't.
Well, let's kind of just break this down from when we were last with you. We were last with you right when the Oregon game was officially canceled, which seems like 8 years ago, by the way, that went away. In the weeks that followed, the Missouri Valley made its decision, I want to say August 7th. That was the same day that the Bison opened up fall camp. That evening, the Missouri Valley Football Conference announced they were moving its games to the spring. NDSU announced that night that they fully intended that they wanted to play 3 non-conference games. Now, over that week, Kolpack, from what you and I both have reported on, that NDSU called 100 schools. Matt Larson told us that, at least 100, everybody. We know the Nebraska deal, which I want to get into in a second as well. That also seems like it was 2 years ago. They couldn't find a deal on that, so they announced on Friday the 14th that they are not pursuing a fall schedule. The following week, last week, I interviewed Brad Teague, the Central Arkansas athletic director, on my show. He says, yeah, we had an agreement with North Dakota State, but they couldn't find 2 other games. You reached out to Greg Seitz at Jacksonville State, and he said that, yeah, we would have played them in a home-and-home. And you interviewed Matt Larson, NDSU AD,
Don't
on
forget
Friday.
Stephen F. Austin.
And Stephen F. Austin as well. Ryan Ivey at Stephen F. Austin also said it. You interviewed Matt Larson on Friday, and I think maybe unintentionally, Larson's last quote in your story when he said, when you asked him if they were still working on it or who knows, he said, who knows? And then here we are on Monday of this week, and now the Bison have a football game with Central Arkansas.
And I think he was right in his meaning on that. I took his tone of voice when he said, who knows? And I could play that interview back to you. That I truly believe he didn't know.
No, yeah.
I by his tone of voice, his reaction, it was my last question, just sort of a parting question. I don't think he was prepared for it. But when you sense when people maybe are hesitant on something and they don't want to reveal.
Yeah.
Because he stumbled around it. He said it one way, then he goes, who knows? I don't know, maybe he knew. But what happened? What changed? Where from that point? Let's just say on Friday morning at 9 a.m. when I talked to him, that he didn't know, that he thought it was over.
Well, what happened was the NCAA made some announcements at 5 o'clock on Friday in a typical NCAA move, specifically about eligibility and about
said this
practice
season
time.
didn't count.
Right.
So did that mean NDSU went right back to Central Arkansas then?
I think so. I think at least from what we gathered from that press conference that we had with Larson and Entz yesterday, I think once they got clarification, because it certainly sounded, and I never asked you this yesterday after the press conference was done, when Entz said to us that he was worried that they were about players opting out of the spring if their eligibility was counted, you wonder how many players that would have been that maybe didn't want to risk playing an 8-game season, or we do not know about any logistics of the spring, if that even is going to happen. And
maybe they would have entered the transfer portal.
Who knows?
So now this year doesn't count.
Right. Correct. That all of the current players' eligibility will be the same year of eligibility next season in 2021. Which
and
is
that brings another elephant in the room now, because you can't keep everybody. You cannot keep everybody. You got too many players coming in.
I still think do you think the players that we had, I think you had a list of 5 or 6 that were.
People naturally leave.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit around, and if you're not a starter in NFL aspirations and you need that extra year for exposure, I highly doubt you're going to hang out just to play football.
It's time to go start your life. You wonder, those 5 or 6, you think they'll stick around and play this one game?
Aaron Mercadel's the one I'm curious about, because he is the one starter. Well, the punter, Garrett Wagner.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you if you're the punter?
Exactly. One more game to go do it. Yeah, I'm curious on that front. The second part was, if you play, you get a ton more practice. You get 25 practices, which you were not going to get. I think it was 12 hours of basically strength and conditioning and
20 a week.
Of walkthrough.
Right, 20 hours a week. Of meetings, walkthrough, and strength and conditioning. Which
obviously is much different than actual practice. And from what Larson and Entz said yesterday, the ability to basically, Kolpack, do a fall camp and then lead up to a game is
basically flip-flop spring football.
Is basically what they're anticipating here. I think that was the biggest change. I only ask, and I think I mentioned this to you on my show yesterday, did they pull the trigger too early on this? Could they have waited another week? But the thing is, if they weren't practicing, you know what I mean? Like, how difficult. It's easy for me to hear and sit here and ask that about sitting around and waiting for a week.
Right. I watched one practice from the street, from the sidewalk. I had to go for a long walk, Dom. I just had to get out of the house. I was going for a long walk.
Stroll by NDSU,
and I got by North University Drive around 16th Avenue North in that area, and I just needed to take a break. And lo and behold, I looked to my right.
Oh, the Bison football team.
The Bison team was practicing.
Yeah, and how did it look?
I don't know, like a practice.
Yeah. That's
I'm with a lot of coaches are so paranoid with that, but we really don't know a whole lot when it comes to watching football practice. We don't.
No,
we don't.
No. I laugh at that. That started 7 years ago this month when Craig Bowl shut the doors on us.
Pete Carroll at Southern, when he was at USC, would beg reporters, you guys come in. You know why? He goes, you guys don't know what's going on.
Yeah, right.
He goes, I don't care if you're here. You don't know anyway.
Bowl could have, and Vegan could have literally showed, this is what we're going to do on the first play of the game at Kansas State, and I still wouldn't have
Now, where I
out.
get it is allowing electronics. I get that. You can't have people filming it, and then it ends up on the internet, and then you could probably see some stuff if you're the the opposing game plan guy or whatever. I get that. But just Jeff Kolpack walking by they know that. They know I don't know anything when I'm watching practice. It's not breaking news.
The only time I remember Kolpack is the week of the FCS championship game when we were in Frisco, and the Wednesday when we got down there of 2016. And you'll remember this. I was 2 streets away from where the Bison were practicing, and I had to zoom all the way in, and I could see a certain number 11 out there just whipping it around. And I'm like, well, he looks pretty good. And of course, we didn't know at that point that we probably should have put 2 and 2 together that he was going to be the starting quarterback.
It was going to be him or Easton Stick. Did you see my little shot I got on McFeely
sure
in the column today?
I'm sure you enjoyed that, absolutely, on that
Just
front.
a little subtle shot. It never gets old.
So Central Arkansas comes in October 3rd. As we record this on this Tuesday, we don't know yet the amount of people that will be allowed inside the dome.
If I were to guess now, I'd say 50%.
Okay.
I would.
So we're saying 9,000, 10,000?
I would say.
Okay.
Yep.
They'll have to wear masks.
Correct.
When they go to the game, and no tailgating on that front.
You don't think there's going to be any tailgating around Fargo on that day?
Well, at least in the dome tailgate.
I understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We get the pick of where are we going to go for our show.
Well, we'll have plenty of social
distance.
We
are going to do a show, right?
Yes, we're going to do a show. We'll have plenty of social distance, I could say that, from anybody around us. But yeah, to your point, yes, I think there will be, but nothing in the dome tailgating lots on that front. So they get a team out of the Southland who won the Southland last season. I think people may forget that. They were the 8th seed in the tournament. They lost in the second round at home to Illinois State, which, of course, was on such a tear with its defense. And James Robinson, they've made 3 playoff appearances. This is a good program. I mean, if in the bubble, Kolpack, if we were just looking at this in a vacuum, this would be a great non-conference game that the Bison would have scheduled.
Really made strides in the last 3-4 years in the Southland and being one of the top-tier teams in the Southland. I think they're on the verge. They're trying to make that next step. They're trying to get to the Northern Iowa stage, the James Madison stage, the NDSU stage, the Montana State's done that. Mm-hmm. They've made the semis now. Montana's on its way back after several years of falling off. So they're trying to get into that top 10 level type team in the FCS. And if you can do that, a top 10, top 5, then you have a chance of reaching Frisco. If you're outside the top 10, you have no chance.
Yep. I agree. We've seen that.
You have absolutely zero chance.
Yep.
You can make a surprise run here and there. You can maybe win a game here and there. But to win 3 games or 4 games to get to Frisco, if you're not a top 5 team, maybe 6, 7, 8, I don't know.
It's been very infrequent that it's happened since we've been, actively paying attention.
There's been one victory by an opponent who won on the road, right? That's JMU and NDSU.
James Madison did it 2016.
Since when? You know that nerd stat.
Oh, God, that went back to 2007, I want to say, when I think Richmond
the last
won
team to win a title that won a game on
the
road
in the FCS playoffs. Yep, that was James Madison broke that streak in 2016. They were the first to do that in a long time. I want to ask you here because we've talked about this. I know you've written about it. About what the viability of the spring is. As we sit here, we still have no clarification from the NCAA on what it's going to look like. I know you chatted with Patty Viverito, the commissioner of the Missouri Valley, about this, about when the potential season could start and kind of back timing it from when the championship game would be to when the season would start. For people that didn't have a chance to read that, what did she tell you on that?
She said it's going to come in bits and pieces. They bought themselves some time now with the NCAA mandate of the 20 hours of OTAs, walkthroughs, and meetings, and that runs through, I don't know, November or something like that. But she believes at the NCAA Divisional Council meeting in mid-September, they'll have further clarification on that.
I got to make a ruling soon.
And her belief and her model, and I think this is her favorite model, is you have to start backwards. So have the FCS title game on May 22nd and then work back. You're going to have 3 weeks of playoffs. Before that, 8 weeks of regular season ball.
Okay.
I don't have the dates in front of me. So that would put the first game at March 9th in that area. That would put your first practices. And then you have 29 practices, but then you have to have a week of acclimatization.
Yep. Okay, I'm looking here. Yeah, May 22nd would be the championship game of the year. So May 1st, 8th, and 15th would be the playoffs.
That is correct.
Okay, so then we're playing 8 games. That's obviously the 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th of April, and that would start March 13th, my birthday. That would be the first week.
She mentioned that.
I'm sure she did. The first week of the regular season would be on Saturday, March 13th. And then Saturday, March 6th would be the 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th, and then the 4 Saturdays in April.
That sounds right.
So you're saying you'd start practice here
Then 3 weeks prior to that,
February 6th, roughly, is when practice would begin.
Acclimatization would start.
I don't know. I'm still... There's so much about the spring we don't know that...
Yeah, this is such an assumption.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Right, that I can understand why Central Arkansas is doing what they're doing. They're playing a full fall because they don't believe, A, the spring is viable, and B, they believe they've got some NFL guys that they don't want to delay that chance of them going on. Some guys graduating, as you mentioned before with the Bison, that they're going to go that route. They're not alone. Eastern Kentucky's doing that. Stephen F., granted they're not eligible for the postseason, is going down that road, and I don't disagree with them. Central Arkansas has given up a chance at the postseason, but they're banking on the fact that there won't be a playoff in May. That's why they're playing right now, Kolpack, and that's a bold move.
Well, yeah, it is, but wouldn't you rather bank on that maybe? Isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal is to win the FCS national title?
Yes. Yep.
And I think right now the odds would favor that over this right now.
You're saying the odds of playing in the fall are better than playing in the spring?
Playing in the spring.
You think they're better in the spring right now?
They have to be.
I don't know. Because we still don't know what the virus situation is going to be by then, right? And
I'm not saying they're great odds. I'm saying I think they're better.
I think, well, the chances of anybody completing their season, I think, is slim. And that goes up to the big boy division, too.
Well, Central Arkansas, they have 4 games before this. What happens?
Right. Exactly right. Exactly right.
It was my column today. Nothing's fair about this.
No, and that you're exactly right.
Nothing's fair about Trey Lance being under the total hot, national
we'll
microscope.
Get to that in a minute. But you're exactly right. I mean, if UCA they play Mo State the week before they play the Bison, and what happens if they test positive there? This game is over, just like that. But I think that's where we're at with stuff. I think just my 2 cents on the spring is just we don't know what's going to be different then than we know now. And plus, Jackson Hankey said it, and he said it perfectly in that press conference last week, of playing a full spring, taking a couple months off, and then playing another full season. No one's ever done that in organized football. I just don't think that's logical. If we're touting player safety, Kolpack, the NCAA keeps browbeating everybody on that, then there's no way they can play 20-some-odd games in a 9-month span.
At least if you make Frisco, you'll have 11 games and not 16 what the Bison had. At least you'll have that.
What do you put the chances of the spring happening right now?
20%.
Yeah, that's not great. that's not great. I probably about 15, 20%. I'm probably in that same boat right now. I think where the frustration lies is, like, for NDSU, no one's gotten any guidance on this. The NCAA has just sat by and watched basically the Power 5 make its decisions, and the FCS teams are just left holding the bag on this, Kolpack, because they're governed by the NCAA, unlike the Power 5, and they're just twisting in the wind right now.
I can't wrap my head around Emmert's office and what he's doing.
No. Well, we know he's doing. He doesn't know the FCS playoff format, I can tell you that. The round robin was another one of the earth-shaking quotes that came out.
I mean, I'd understand if you don't know the Division II rowing tournament or national title or whatever, or maybe the Division III tennis format.
Mm-hmm.
This is Division I football. He's been there.
He has presented the trophy. He has given it to Kleiman and Entz.
And he has no clue. He has no idea.
He's none. Which is maybe it shouldn't be as fascinating as we thought.
I understand it's the FCS, okay? And if you need further evidence that the NCAA doesn't give a rip about
there it is.
FCS, it is right there.
This came out today. Oklahoma head coach Lincoln Riley won't say which position group it is, but says he had one group essentially wiped out, all but one, by a COVID test. He said it's a position group that needs, quote, multiple guys on the field together. So I think we can put 2 and 2 together. It's either the offensive or defensive line or the linebackers. And this is you.
Let's hope it's not the quarterback.
But how many times have you talked about this? That this is what the litmus test. What is going to happen if there are numerous guys that have a certain position that can't play? And now Oklahoma's
this will be huge how they address this.
This is
they
monstrous.
play Kansas State, right? Kansas State is getting ready to head there.
No, it's Oklahoma. They're playing.
Oklahoma.
They play Missouri State. They play Missouri State that first game of the season.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
maybe Oklahoma's the second game anyway. Whatever.
But this is huge. This is something we've been talking about. What's going to happen when it hits? You wrote about this, gosh, in March or in April. If it wipes out a whole position group, and looks like it's done this now at Oklahoma of all places.
So that's 2 weeks quarantine
at least. And they're supposed to play. I think September 12th is that game with Missouri State to open up the season, and that's now 3 weeks away.
Well, there's time.
Man, but you know what I mean? I mean, this is what we're gonna see for the ACC and the Big 12 and the SEC.
Oh, there's so much discussion. NFL, what's going to happen there?
I know it.
Oh my goodness,
it's fascinating. You mentioned the NFL, and that continues to be red hot again here in Fargo. Last night, Scott Van Pelt's commentary segment on SportsCenter devoted 3.5 minutes to talk about North Dakota State and Trey Lance, and I saw it live and I was fascinated, Kolpack, because he was fixated on talking about Trey. And now that has become story 1A for each of us, anybody that covers North Dakota State football, is what has happened since the April draft, which we thought at that time maybe was content filler for ESPN and the NFL Network, has legitimately become significant NFL draft talk now.
I think there are two parts of this answer. I don't think you can answer this question in one part. I really don't. This is not a one-part answer. Should he go to the NFL? I think you have to say, should he go? And, well, could he go?
Could he go is yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Could he go? And if he's somewhat guaranteed somehow a top 10 pick, maybe top 15,
bye-bye.
I think you have to go. But should he go? And I've thought about this. I've listened to the Bison coaches. I've listened to these, and I've read all this stuff. My answer is no. I don't think he should. Now, I think could he go and make that cash? Then yes, you have to go. I mean, maybe you get hurt.
You never know.
Next year. You never know. There's no guarantees. But it makes sense to me that, okay, Carson Wentz was a fifth-year senior. Easton Stick was a fifth-year senior. Both very bright individuals. Trey Lance is a bright individual. Yeah. I don't know if he's an all-academic guy. Stick was a really all-academic guy, and Wentz was a 4.0. Yeah. You got to be incredibly brilliant, really, to get a lot of the pictures of the line of scrimmage. Now, he's had 16 games against FCS competition. Is that going to prepare him adequately? Has that prepared him adequately to succeed in the NFL? I think whoever drafts him then better be patient.
Absolutely. I think that if he decides to leave, he's not playing right away. I think this is maybe a Jordan Love kind of move. We just saw what the Packers did in this draft. Maybe sit him for a couple of years while Aaron Rodgers is the guy, and then he takes
better
over.
Hope he has that position, has that potential to hang for a team for 2 years. I think teams are trigger happy. I think they draft a guy number one, they want him right away.
There's no doubt about that. Absolutely. If you're taking a guy in the top 5, he's your guy. You know, at this time last year, nobody was thinking Joe Burrow was the number one quarterback. You know what I mean? I mean,
but Joe Burrow's a fifth-year senior, though.
True, but also he was off the radar on this. And I think here's the thing on my counter to you. What else can he do at this level? He just did a record-setting year, won the Peyton.
I don't know. Maybe there's more details, Dom.
I'm sure there is.
Maybe put him in better plays on audibles, things like that.
But he can only hurt his draft stock now, can he?
I don't think so. You just can't only hurt it.
But See, by playing anymore, I don't.
He's going to be
know.
better. He's probably going to dominate even more. And after teams are going to throw some more stuff at you. And keep in mind on this too. How often was he pressured?
Not much.
At all day to throw.
But he had an awesome offensive line. No doubt about it.
Now he's been lauded as saying, okay, he goes to this option, this option, this option. Well, he had 5, 6, 7 seconds to throw to go to that option, that option, that option. Can you, maybe you have to do it quicker.
Big E taught us both
it's such small details.
That it's not necessarily the games. It's the combine. Carson Wentz, you remember when he came back for that Jacksonville State game that you wrote about today, he was at the end of the first round projections. I remember Todd McShay came on during the broadcast and said, I have him in the mid to late 20s. And it wasn't, honestly, his championship game wasn't all that great. He threw 2 picks. I know he scored 2 rushing touchdowns. He was good. But that didn't make him the money, Kolpack. What made him the money was the combine. He was off the charts, and the pro day. Pro day, he was. Remember, we were there. He documented. He was sensational at both.
Okay, can Trey Lance do that kind of a pro day? Can he throw like that? I don't think anybody can.
I think he could have an off the chart combine. He could test remarkably well. He could run the 40. We know he can wing it. I think that's where he could go from top 15 to top 5, just like Wentz did. I think he could do the same thing. But to answer your question, should he go or could he go? Yes. I guess could or should, whatever. You can change those words. We're both
I don't think he's ready, though. I don't think he's ready.
Okay. I think he can go right now. I do.
Oh, yeah, he can go, but I don't think he's ready.
I think, ready for the NFL and going into the NFL draft are two. That's a whole other conversation we could have. I think he's played his last game. I think he plays maybe this game against Central Arkansas, but that's it. And then maybe that's not even guaranteed that he plays against Central Arkansas. And then that goes into a whole other conversation, and we'll tie this up quick here because we're almost at a half hour, on eligibility. If he decides to go to the NFL, now with this new eligibility deal, Zeb Noland is a senior again next year, Kolpack. So maybe they've got a upperclassman at that spot to groom whoever it is in waiting. If it's Cam Miller, the incoming guy, or if it's Cole Payton, the guy they just recruited to come in.
There's a whole nother story subset there because Zeb Noland has graduate assistant opportunities this spring that he'd have to forgo, and then you're saying come back another fall.
Right.
He'd be like 29 years old.
And that goes back to what
those UND hockey players from way back when.
And that goes back to what you said right off the top. You know, some guys are just ready to go out and start their lives. If there's a chance to be a starting quarterback, would you take that opportunity?
Yes.
I would. I know I would. Especially if you knew that okay, I'm the guy.
Well, I think it's a chance to prove yourself. You can say, okay, I got beat out by a first-round guy. Right. I was this dude coming out of high school. I thought I deserved the chance at Iowa State.
Yep.
I didn't agree with the decision, but they started a freshman over me. I think this would be the chance for Zeb Noland to say, you know what, I'm a pretty good player.
Fascinating discussion that could happen. If that comes to pass, that could be really, really interesting on the Bison front. Dylan Radin's done?
Do you play one more game?
I don't think so. We've talked about that. I mean, he has so much on tape. He's started 31 some odd games. I'd say no. I'm good. I'm good to go. That I'm ready to start.
Well, the national dudes are saying for Lance not to play.
Yep, I can see that too. I'm telling you that if there's possibility of getting hurt, whatever. The interesting part of this is if the NFL decides to move the draft, they have it in the collective bargaining agreement. They can move it to early June if the commissioner has that power to do that.
And when are they going to make that decision?
I would assume probably pretty soon. If they're
before we go, ESPN Game Day, is that going to happen this year?
College Game Day?
Or ESPN College Game Day.
Not in the form I think that we're used to.
No,
There's
certainly
way.
not.
Yeah.
Certainly not. But we haven't really heard anything either.
We haven't heard any TV
And I threw that tweet out, which
got
remarkable action on that tweet that October 3rd, why not? If Trey Lance is going to play Central Arkansas,
absolutely
37-game winning streak.
But the storyline sell itself. This game could get on national TV for all we know. I don't know that right now, but certainly ESPN certainly knows its way to Fargo, as we know. That absolutely that would be an appealing storyline that they could come up here.
ESPN College Game Day live from the Kolpack Man Cave.
Nobody could be in attendance. You got microphones
I'll
there.
be there.
You got camera. You got microphones there. You did that when we were in the height of this, when we were doing our Bison Rewind.
I'm all wired up.
Can make it happen there. Do you think we recapped most everything? I'm sure we forgot something along the way.
Of course
here.
not. There's no way.
What are your thoughts on basketball starting on time?
Oh, let's next week.
It ain't going to happen, right?
No, I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not. We'll dive into that next time. Good stuff here, Jeffrey. Good stuff, my man. Appreciate it. That's it for the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast. If you missed any past episodes, you can download them at iTunes or at inforum.com. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. We'll see everybody next time.